And the government came together and said, these glass makers, they're awful. They're only burning down our city. Let's ship all the glass makers. Let's ban it. And if you want to make glass, you got to go to this island. The island is the only place that you're going to be able to make glass. And what happened was all the glass makers was like, all right, I got my stuff. I'm going to the island. And they went to the island. And during that, 10 years, I think it was, of that time period, we got the fastest growth of innovation in glass that we've ever had in the entire world. Some of the innovation we use today, I'm in Miami, so there's a lot of hurricanes and hurricane-proof glass and things like that, came from that time period of just 10 years. And what happened was they were all together. They were learning from each other. They were collaborating. The speed of innovation sped up really, really quickly. And that's what we're trying to do and doing within Fintech Nerdcon, just focus on fintech.
Hi, I'm Rory Holland, CEO of Customer and the host of Mighty Finsights. Every year, I talk with hundreds of financial leaders and innovators. We unpack the highs and the lows of working in financial services and fintech. And today, Colton Pond, the Global CMO of Socure and co-founder of Fintech Nerdcon, is back on the show. We talked about a ton of great stuff, including why the battle between traditional banks and fintechs ended in a merger instead of a conquest, how cybercriminals are using AI and what Socure is doing about it, and the reason why Colton's all gas, no brakes attitude is actually about work ethic, not recklessness or arrogance. Join me as we dive beneath the brand to learn what's really happening. Hey, Colton, welcome to the show.
What's up, Rory? Good to see you, my friend.
You too. So it's been a couple of years and a lot of life changes for you. We were just talking off camera about your move back down south to Miami. How's that going?
My wife woke up one day in New York City and she said, hey, you travel all the time. I'm here 100% of the time. I think I should decide where we live. And we're going back to Miami because I'm not doing this winter thing ever again. But Miami's been great. You and I were talking about how it's grown a lot. I was here for grad school and I taught at research at University of Miami in 2018, 2019, 2020 era. And even over the past 6 years, it's just exploded with growth and lots of growth within Latin America, fintech, but lots of growth within traditional finance down here too, and a lot of cool new companies popping up.
Yeah, what are you seeing as far as new companies? Any to mention? Obviously you're there, but with all the cool stuff you're doing, are there is there community there for our industry?
There will always be a pull in Miami to two general subcategories of finance, one within Latin America. So New Bank's headquarters in the US is in Miami. And they got conditionally approved for the OCC charter. They're going to go kind of head first to the US market and see if they can win, with other folks. It's interesting because Revolut also conditionally got applied for an OCC charter. Monzo announced a couple weeks ago they're leaving the US. So, there'll always be this Latin America finance influence. And then the other influence that you'll see a lot of is a lot of crypto, blockchain, Web3 influence down here. But what I'm encouraged about is merging those two worlds together and a lot of interesting companies. There's a lab down here in Miami and a fintech group down here in Miami where I get to mentor a bunch of the new companies that come up. And encouraged to see some of the cool use cases of stablecoin, of crypto and Web3 within traditional finance.
Yeah, man, exciting time. I'm definitely have to come down and visit. We'll shoot in person next time. We missed each other this last trip. So I want to talk about your work now that you're doing at Socure. I definitely want to talk about Fintech T, Fintech Nerdcon. There's so much fun stuff I want to get into, but I wanted to start with something we both enjoy, and that's scuba diving. And how did you get introduced to scuba diving? When did you fall in love with it? I want to hear some of the stories.
Kind of funny actually. So my wife and I booked a trip to the Maldives. It was her lifetime trip. And we're about a month out and we're going to this small man-made island, at the Ritz-Carlton. And there's nothing really to do there other than hang out on the beach and relax and eat great food. I was like, what else could we do? I was like, we could go scuba diving. And literally, and the certification process is really thorough. 3 weeks before the trip, we went and got certified. We did a blitz class and got certified. We were in Utah at the time, went to this crater that freaking sucked to dive, to do our four official dives within the crater in Homestead. It was so murky you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. So imagine going from that to the Maldives and diving in the Maldives. And we did it and we fell in love. I think on that Maldives trip, we were there for 11 days. I think we did like 18 dives. And now we've been 10 different countries scuba diving. We've been to 67, 68 different countries, non-scuba diving, but 10 different countries scuba diving across like Japan and Hawaii, and now down in the Keys here in Florida, and then Japan and Maldives. We just did a trip this past year where we did Bali and Komodo, which was incredible diving. And then we went to Australia and did the Great Barrier Reef.
Whoa. Any favorites?
Komodo was pretty freaking cool. Incredible. Some of the best diving in the world. Really, really strong currents, great shark dives. My favorite dive by far is actually, the big island in Hawaii. The Manta night dive in Kona is, something in a totally different world. It's incredible.
Oh, you mentioned a night dive. So not so dissimilar to what you said about you and your wife's experience. When my wife and I we met and got married within the same year, pretty fast. Oh. And we both enjoyed the water and really struggling to get our families together. My family's all spread all over the country. And like, we finally got frustrated and said, we're going to Jamaica and we're getting married. So we're going to get married on the beach. Come if you want. And thankfully we had 30, 40 people come.
Cool.
It was a blast, but we raced to get certified. Same deal. And like your experience with your open dive to like actually get your certification, we did in a lake in Atlanta north of Atlanta called Lake Lanier. And it was pretty awful. Yeah. Same thing. Murky. You couldn't see anything. I guess you can call it scuba diving, but it was what we needed. But then we went to Jamaica and we dove, at least once a day, some days twice a day. And we did a night dive. And so I wanted to ask you about the Manta night dive, because that night dive for us, I loved it. My wife was terrified. Sure. When we came up at the very end, we went to the bottom and like circled up, and we had gotten separated. We had one guide with us, thank goodness, but we had got separated from our group. So when we came up, they were gone. Like we couldn't find them. And at night you can't see anything. You're just bobbing in the water. So we were thinking we were not going to make it. And he blew the whistle. It took about 20 minutes before the boat made it back to us. But she's like, I don't think I'll do a night dive again. I'm curious, like, how that Manta experience was, what you thought of it. Like, it had to have been beautiful, I imagine.
It was beautiful. Luckily, we've never had an experience like that. I think it's a scuba diver's worst nightmare that you come up and they're gone, and you're like, shit, what do I do? You got a BCD that you can inflate and just hang out for a little bit if you needed to, right? But the Manta night dive in Kona is incredible because they put these big lights down there. Manta rays eat plankton, and you just kneel on the sand. And 20 different manta rays were coming right by you, right over your head. It's something literally that you would imagine in a different world. It was absolutely incredible.
What's the size of a manta? Like, how big are those?
Huge. Their wingspan is like 15 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet. They can swim up to 50 miles an hour. And as a result, have no real natural predators because they swim faster than sharks would eat them. But sharks are lazy. They want to eat things that are easy, not manta rays that can swim really fast. And they eat about 20% of their weight every day in only plankton. They only eat plankton. So when you drop the lights attract plankton, and the mantas come and swoop and eat the plankton. More plankton come. They come and swoop and eat the plankton. How you get them to come.
So cool, man. So cool. Well, thanks for indulging me on that, and the audience too. It's so cool. For everybody listening, if you haven't scuba dove, do it. It's a great experience. Even if you just have to go to your local pool and get certified, do it and go somewhere and dive. It is a completely, as you know, Colton, it's a completely different experience, and it's just, it's fantastic. So I want to shift gears a bit. So I want to talk about, like, when you first got into fintech, like, how did you discover fintech? And like, was that something back in college days? Was it after you got out of college?
Great question. So I was actually at University of Miami in a PhD program, and was going down the professor path. I was teaching, doing research at University of Miami, and I realized the path wasn't the right path for me. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to step out. I'm going to go back into industry. And one of the reasons why I wanted to get into academia was I wanted to make an impact, and impact was the most important thing to me. And I felt like academia gave me the biggest likelihood, a chance to be able to do so. When I stepped out, I said, okay, let me look at industries that I would feel really passionate about. And one of the things I didn't want to do was just be marketing and like go into advertising, go into tech, go into health. I wanted to really focus on a certain industry and problem and go solve it. And there were three that I came up with of big problems. One was education. I think the education system in the U.S. needs a fundamental reform. Two is healthcare, and like a lot of challenges within healthcare. And three is finance. 6 out of 10 Americans can't afford an emergency $400 expense. And I looked at the problems and said, healthcare. I don't know schooling. Education. I couldn't find any companies that I felt were really solving it. It's a really big problem. It's really hard to solve. Healthcare is like, I don't want to be a doctor. Like I already went to enough school. Like I'm fine. And then I was like, finance, like, yeah, this could be cool. And I dove deep into fintech and I fell in love with fintech. I started my fintech and finance career at MX, built a really close relationship with the late co-founder and CTO of MX, Brandon DeWitt, who passed away due to stage 4 cancer. And he taught me the impact that finance can have and fintech can have on broader financial wellness. And since then, I am a self-proclaimed fintech nerd. I will never leave fintech. I love fintech. Socure now is broader than fintech, but we have a really deep presence within fintech and financial services. And it is the thing I do on my spare time. Like I read about fintech. That's what I do.
I love it. I want to go back to something that you said and just talking like financial education, financial wellness, helping people impact. How do you think about like traditional finance and fintech? Like those words get mixed up, and most people not in our industry are like, what is fintech? Like never heard of it. Like, how do you think about the work that you do at Socure and at Fintech Nerds and trying to make that impact? And like, do you use language like fintech and financial services outside of the sphere?
Great question. So there's 2 points to hit on here. One, we use the word financial services and fintech. To me, like we should stop and they should be synonymous. Fintech is leaned more of like how to infuse technology within financial services, and then traditional financial services now has technology in every aspect. So we really ought to start thinking about merging these two, because in reality they are. They're in 2018, 2019, there was this big debate. Brett King wrote a book about fintech coming to eat banks and credit unions lunch, and they're going to take over the world. And that hasn't come to reality. What we've seen is much more of a cooperation within these tech companies solving financial services problems and banks and credit unions. You see a little bit of it with like Chime as a neobank and a challenger bank going and trying to steal customers from some of the traditional banks. But for the most part, and where I've lived in my career has been in the B2B fintech space of how do we provide technology that helps you provide better products and better services, better education, better awareness on the financial side to customers.
For most consumers, and even for much of the business world, the financial system is invisible. Money seems to whiz from place to place at a speed that was impossible just 50 years ago. Banks and fintechs need each other to succeed. We're definitely seeing some of the disruption and innovation that Brett King wrote about, but it's happening to both parties. The future will be determined by how well banks and fintechs cooperate.
Because the second aspect that I'll highlight is, Rory, like our education system is broken, in my opinion, but the financial education system is tremendously broken. That my kids go to school and they don't have a class to teach them about how to manage their finances is a shame. And kids get out of school, and you see this a lot with college athletes too. They go into college now with the NIL money, they get paid a bunch of money. They have no idea how to manage that money. They have zero idea up from down on what to do, right? And I believe that that's one of the most important skills that we ought to be teaching our kids, is how to manage your finances and how to live a self-sustainable life.
Oh gosh, I couldn't agree more. And why do you think that is? Like we live in this country of so much wealth and opportunity, and there's zero financial education. I know growing up, I got zero. All I know is I got a credit card offer in the mail at some point the latter half of my college career. I'm like, cool, free money, because I had no idea. So I went out and like did whatever I guess boy would do in college that loved to play golf. I bought a set of golf clubs, and I was like, okay, that's $700. That's fun. And then I got the next bill. I'm like, oh wait, that $700 is not $700 anymore. It's more. So I'm like, what is that? But that's so sad. Like that
It
doesn't,
sad.
why do you think, two questions. I'm going to posit the first one to you. I'm curious. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's such a lack of education?
Hot take, because the education system in the US is outdated and, not quick to adapt and change to problems that are actually happening, right? Like folks know about these problems. Like it's very clear. And when I bring up this perspective, everyone always agrees with me, but no one's actually doing anything to change it, in my opinion. Like there's some non-government organizations who are attempting to do so, but like they don't have the influence to actually do so at scale, and it needs to be solved at scale.
I think to me, it's ludicrous. Like it's shocking that in this country we don't. I had a guest on the other day and he was talking about the system's rigged, like starting like my story, like out of college. So I incurred debt and I didn't learn. And then I got a car because I needed one. I got a car loan. Then I needed to buy a house. So I bought a house. And then you find yourself in your 20s, if you're lucky in your 20s, you can own a home, but then you're not really owning anything. You're just paying the bank for it. And then it becomes a harsh reality of like, wait a minute, now I'm sitting on a pile of debt. At least I have a home where I'm building some equity, but everything else, nobody teaches you that. And then you get stuck. And there's people, you think about the people living paycheck to paycheck right now. It's really sad.
It is sad. Yeah. And it goes back to that stat, like 6 out of 10 Americans can't afford a $400 emergency expense. Their car breaks down. They need to use their car to go to work. Their hands are tied. Like that's a sad reality we live in the US. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to pivot from that, but definitely a topic I'd love to have you back on because I think it's so important. We need to be talking about it more, and we need to take some action. Don't exactly know how we can change the educational system in the United States, but I think the more people that talk about it, the better. And I think it starts with our kids, right? Like teaching our kids, and then hopefully over time, generations will improve. So I wanted to talk about fintech nerds. So like, where did that come from? Because you said you're a self-professed fintech nerd, which is great. Like, was that something you just created? Did you run into some buddies or like, let's do this?
Yeah, great question. So at a conference, I won't name the conference, but at a conference, I was talking to Simon Taylor, who's a very close friend of mine. And I just like love his content that he writes about fintech. And we became really, really good friends. We were talking about how frustrated we were at the conference. And what many of these fintech conferences, what it turns into is fintech social hour, which I like because I got lots of friends in the industry, but like I'm also a fintech nerd and I want to nerd out on this stuff. And I want to talk about the ISO standards within payments. I want to talk about what's happening within deepfakes and injection attacks within fraud. Like I want to like really nerd out on the stuff too. And I was just disappointed. I was like, yeah, great to catch up with everyone, but like, did I learn anything about fintech? Did I progress my knowledge of fintech at all? Like, no. And Simon already had this idea of like, in talking to folks like Alex Johnson and others, but it was like, hey, what if we just had 100 of our friends in a room for a weekend and they're all fintech nerds and we just talked about fintech stuff and we didn't really have an agenda. We just like nerd out on what's going on in fintech. It's like, man, that would be so cool. Let's do it. And we started talking about this to other people, and we got an overwhelming positive response. And Simon and I were like, and Joy, our other co-founder, was like, hey, we got to do something about this. So we co-founded Fintech Nerdcon. It is the community for fintech nerds. We did our inaugural conference last year. So we host an annual large conference for about 1,500 folks. Last year was in Miami. This upcoming year is in San Diego. Everyone should come. The week before Thanksgiving, who doesn't want to go to San Diego in November? It's quite nice. But the premise of the conference is flipped on its head. It's instead of focus on networking, instead of focus on meetings, instead of focus on things like that, why don't we focus on the content and the insights of what's happening within fintech? And so for context, like this year, we'll talk a good amount within prediction markets. So what's happening with prediction markets and the regulation within prediction markets, Kalshi and Poly Market are facing that reality now, but experiencing tremendous growth and freaking crushing it. We'll talk a lot within what's happening within blockchain-based lending, and like, is blockchain going to revolutionize capital markets? Like these like really, really, really nerdy insights that you got to raise your hand and say, I'm a fintech nerd and I want to learn about that stuff. But the conference last year was like a mini fintech family reunion. It was everyone you would want within fintech, all in a close vicinity. You walk down the hall, or you walk in the area, and you just see the people that you want to talk to.
Yeah, you told me when we chatted last that it had grown dramatically. Like, where did it just started with a handful of you?
It was like we were going to do 100 and then 500 and then 1,000. And we were like, hey, we're going to cap it at 1,000. And then we shut off registrations. We got so many people text Simon and I and Joy like, hey, I'm on a flight and you shut off registrations. I'm coming. I'm like, why didn't you buy your ticket a while ago, dude? So we opened it up and we ended up getting about 1,200, 1,300 people in Miami. But the idea is much broader. It's like how to build these micro communities within fintech. So Dennis Yang is the head of generative AI at Chime, and he was a big part of what we did at Fintech Nerdcon this year. And he hosted a community of the leading AI individuals and executives within various fintechs, where they collaborated on what's working, what's not working, how is AI influencing fintech and finance, and deep collaboration. And I actually like it. I'll shout out to my old boss and CEO at LoanPro, Rhett Roberts, who told me this story. But I think it was in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. But there was a time in which there was a lot of glass being made, and this was a long time ago. And one of the glass makers started a fire and burnt down the whole city. And the government came together and said, these glass makers, they're awful. They're only burning down our city. Let's ship all the glass makers. Let's ban it. And if you want to make glass, you got to go to this island. The island is the only place that you're going to be able to make glass. And what happened was all the glass makers was like, all right, I got my stuff. I'm going to the island. And they went to the island. And during that 10 years, I think it was, of that time period, we got the fastest growth of innovation in glass that we've ever had in the entire world. Some of the innovation we use today, I'm in Miami, so there's a lot of hurricanes and hurricane-proof glass and things like that, came from that time period of just 10 years. And what happened was they were all together. They were learning from each other. They were collaborating. The speed of innovation sped up really, really quickly. And that's what we're trying to do and doing within Fintech Nerdcon, just focus on fintech.
Oh, that's awesome. I did not know that story about Italian where glass in Italy. That's cool. But that makes a ton of sense. And when you mentioned these micro communities, so is that kind of what you see happening with Fintech Nerds is you guys are getting together as a group and then you have this great content around different topics and then people are kind of circling around different topics they're interested in and innovating?
What we eventually want to do is create the S tier of leaders within certain micro community space, the top AI leaders within fintech, the top fraud experts within fintech, the top AML experts within fintech, and they meet every other month together to collaborate and share insights and whatnot. And then they gather in the annual gathering at Fintech Nerdcon, but it's all centered around community and increased collaboration.
Wow, that's cool. So are you, other than AI, were there other couple of topics, things that were top of mind for you that you're seeing a lot of innovation?
Yeah, there were two, and it ties to both of my I'm now an advisor at LoanPro and the global chief marketing officer at Socure. One, there was a lot within lending. We talked about how to stand up a lending program from scratch. You see a lot of folks that have debit card programs shift to credit card because interchange compression on the debit side. And then the other aspect is just the insanely crazy pace of change when it comes to fraud. If you look at a year ago, AI and deepfake technology, or AI technology to create deepfakes was not very good. I could tell a deepfake from a real person. You cannot tell today. And we have seen AI tremendously accelerate the pace of fraud, what attacks fraudsters are using, attacking fraud at scale. And there was a lot of conversations around what does the future of the global economy look like with fraudsters using AI technology to try and commit fraud.
Yeah, that's a good segue into your work now. So you spent some years at LoanPro and helping build that brand of business. It's great to hear you still have a solid relationship and still advising them. Now you're over at Socure. Tell me a little bit about the work you're doing. Socure, what has the experience been? I think it's been 7 or 8 months, maybe 9 months you've been there.
I love that you say that. It seems like I've been here a very long time. Officially, it's been about 2.5 months.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I overextended. No, all right, but yes. So tell me about the last couple months. What has the transition been like? What kind of work are you doing?
Yeah, a lot of it, I came to Socure because after talking to Johnny Ayers, our founder and CEO, and Matt, our president, I was really blown away and impressed by them and very excited to learn from both of them. But two, what I realized is two things. One, how much a problem fraud is and how much is changing. And if we don't approach or change our approach to defense, and we're going to be far behind as an industry, and like we need increased innovation here, and the problem is only getting more sophisticated and worse.
Fraud isn't just a problem for banks and fintechs, although they have a front row seat to the battle. In a world where AI deepfakes cost fraudsters almost nothing, everyone is a target. No amount of personal vigilance is going to solve a problem of that scale and complexity. Socure's authentication technology seems brilliant. And with the recent developments in AI, like Anthropic's Mythos model, it couldn't come at a better time.
No one's better suited to solve the problem than Socure. So we did something, one of the things I always talk about when they're like, hey, what's really impressive about Socure? They're really amazed by. We built the only global identity graph at Socure. And what that means is we have 3,000 customers, Uber, PayPal, Remitly, Chime, etc. And let's say I'm USA for context. Generally, I only see Rory's interactions within my four walls of USA. So I can see Rory try and apply for a credit card, apply for a checking account, try and log into his account, try and make a payment within USA. We built a global identity graph where organizations like USA can access and can see Rory's interactions globally with Uber, with PayPal, with Bank of America. And I can make way smarter decisions if I have a breadth of data and insights and understanding who Rory is. And those are the types of things we're doing. We also, another shout out to Ponker, one of our PMs over at some of the things that we launched with deepfake and deepfake detection. We have technology that's awesome where like a deepfake generally is on a computer, not on a phone. And when you got to do a selfie scan to verify that Rory is who he says he is, we'll send a vibration to the phone and to the device, and we'll get a response back based on, is that device being held in a hand, or do we not get a response back and it's likely deepfake technology accordingly. So just some of the like really cool things that we're doing and using AI to fight AI-based fraud is incredible.
I want to pick up on something you said, Colton, that's so interesting is AI with deep fakes. God, goodness, it's going to become probably a more pervasive problem. And you know, the work that you're doing, Socure, sounds so interesting. Like, what is the market? What are you hearing from the market about what Socure does as you talk to current clients, prospective clients? Like, I got to imagine there's some interesting conversations there.
Yeah, so I'll highlight two things. One, and one overarching thing, fraudsters run a P&L. Like, if you don't think that they're running a business. They have expenses, they have revenue. The revenue is fraud and stealing from people, but they do run like a P&L, right? So what AI has done is AI has decreased the cost for fraudsters of fraud to near zero. Go on ChatGPT. You can ask ChatGPT to build you a driver's license with a different picture, and it will do so. With the free version, with like 20 seconds, 30 seconds of time. And imagine what you do if you put some actual time. So it's decreased the cost of fraud to near zero. So what that allows is fraudsters to launch attacks at scale and find any vulnerabilities that do exist. And what they do is they're launching attacks at scale and they're finding what vulnerabilities, and then they attack those vulnerabilities aggressively. So historically, let's take a broad example. Fraud used to be a really big problem focused within banks, credit unions, fintechs, like where your money exists. Fraud was not a problem within workforce, for example. Like, getting hired is relatively hard. You got to show up to an interview in person. Even if I'm remote, how am I going to convince the person that I'm actually someone else? You can go read online on many articles, but there's a huge problem today within workforce fraud where large organizations are hiring employees that they think are based in San Francisco, but are actually in North Korea and posing as people in San Francisco, getting hired, getting access to systems, and then draining funds or money or information or data. So even like aspects where 2 years ago completely unheard of is now being attacked. The same things exist with banks and credit unions and fintechs, just not on the onboarding side. Ongoing account takeover is a huge problem of folks getting access to other folks' accounts that are already existing. They're finding the side door, the window, the back door, the attic, the chimney. Like, how do I get in? And unless you've actually fortified all of the areas, you're at risk. And one other aspect here, Rory, that I think is really, really important. Many folks in the industry, their response to a fraud attack is shut it off, turn it off, turn it off. So what they do instead is they say, I'm going to take 2x4s and I'm going to nail them to the door. No one's coming through this door. The problem is no one's coming through that door. That doesn't help your business grow. That doesn't do what you need it to do. You need a door that lets in good actors quickly and without friction and keeps bad actors out. And that's really where Socure differentiates, is like, lots of folks focus on stopping fraud. And if you want to stop fraud, just stop onboarding new accounts. You will stop fraud, but you won't grow as a business, right? So it's about stopping fraud while reducing friction for good people and letting good people go through as quickly as possible.
There's so much fintech, using that word again. There's so much new technology. How are you helping your current clients that are looking to maybe evolve the way they're doing things to increase their security? And then you're talking to prospective ones, because they're just, they're inundated. Financial institutions are just inundated with inbound all the time. Like how are you cutting through that? Like from a marketing, I want to talk a little bit about marketing. Like from a marketing perspective, how are you doing that? And what are those conversations like?
From a B2B marketing perspective, I'm a big believer that you have to be everywhere to everyone with a value-based message. They need to see you in LinkedIn. They need to see you in Google. They need to see you at conferences. They need to see you in their inbox. They need to see you making they need to see you everywhere and through a variety of channels in a integrated but highly omni-channel approach. And then the second aspect is people don't buy products. They buy value and outcome. If folks think that you're selling a product, it's not the case. Like, go back to Clayton Christensen and Jobs to be Done framework is a framework that I live my life by and career by. People buy outcomes. Like, I'm not buying KYC. I'm buying a solution to help decrease fraud, to help me increase my pull-through rate on my onboarding experience, to like provide a better experience for my customers, to drive customer satisfaction. I'm buying an outcome. That's what I'm doing. And you've got to understand that. Way too many people end at the product of like, okay, KYC, let's sell you KYC. And that works for a group of people, but it's not the right approach.
It's noisy out there, though. I'm kind of curious, like how you cut through the noise. And maybe part of it is just awareness, knowledge, trust, like some different things come to mind.
Find the actual real value that they can achieve and like take a very quantifiable value engineering, value-based approach, right? So there are a lot of messages, and Rory, the amount of times that I get some SDR in my LinkedIn inbox saying, do a demo and I'll give you a $50 Amazon gift card. I'm like, dude, I don't want a $50 Amazon gift card. Like, those days have gone away, right? Like, what I want to know is, for me as CMO, Global CMO at Socure, I'm hiring 28 people or so this year or something like that, right? How are you going to help me hire and scale and onboard people faster? Because I need to get them up to speed because I have a bunch of things on my plate that we got to go execute on. I don't care about your $50 Amazon gift card.
Yeah. Funny. It's funny. I even get those too here in my company too. People wanted to pitch me something. It's like, if you got to pay me to pitch me, I'm probably not interested.
No, definitely not interested, dude. No way.
So you had shared that you have a tough time slowing down, and I'm kind of curious, like, why is that so hard for you? And when you take a moment to reflect on that, like, what is it about you and like your routines that maybe you have to instill into the way that you do work to make sure you do slow down from time to time?
Yeah, good question. So this goes back to like my upbringing. My dad, best lesson my dad ever taught me. I played baseball. I loved baseball. I was extremely untalented in baseball. Was not a very good baseball player, but I worked my ass off and I ended up getting a college scholarship to go play baseball at a JUCO up in Montana. But what it taught me and what my dad taught me is it takes no talent to be the hardest worker on the field. And I live that today. I tell my kids, I tell Hudson and Bronx that, like, it takes zero talent. You can be the least talented person, but you can be the hardest worker. Like, you can always, that's 100% in your control in everything you do. So I've lived my life that way. I think I can say this. I'll just say it, whatever. When I was interviewing for the role at at Loan Pro, when I was interviewing for the role at Loan Pro, there was some feedback that Rhett, the CEO, and Charles, the Chief Revenue, Chief Operating Officer, heard of, like, oh, I don't know if you want to hire Colton. He's all gas and no brakes. And I was like, oh, okay. I'd rather be all gas than all brakes. Like, if I'm going to be honest with you, all brakes is no good, right? But what I've realized is there are instances I will always have a bias for action, 100%. And I think a bias for action and iterative innovation are two aspects that the workforce need more of today. But there are times in which you got to take a step back.
This ties into our discussion about fraud and security as well. There's a false dichotomy between speed and reflection, action and consideration. We need both, and depending on the situation, we need them in different proportions. Colton's mantra of being the hardest worker is an example of extreme ownership. He isn't waiting for doors to open or gift-wrapped opportunities. He's pouring energy into the things he can control, which turns out to be quite a bit. That's a lesson all of us can take to the bank.
You got to make sure that it's right and then go and move and learn from it and continue to iterate. And that daily reminder has helped me improve my career transparently. And it's something I think about every day now.
And did that come up, and was that the moment that you heard that feedback that you hadn't thought of before? Or
I'm going to be honest, I heard the feedback before and I said, y'all don't know what you're talking about. Forget you. Like, I've done this well in my career. You got no idea. But I was a executive at Truve, but much smaller company, 30 people. I was really the first marketing hire. LoanPro was the first one I was literally stepping into a CMO and executive role. And I was able to actually take a step back and say, okay, like, yes, bias for action, iterative innovation, but if we could be a little bit more deliberate on some of the things, we can make sure that we maximize our effort accordingly. I will always still be the hardest worker at any company that I work at. That will never change. But taking a few moments to slow down, think about it, and be a little bit more deliberate is something that really Charles, and shout out to Charles Sweeney, the COO at LoanPro, helped me to be able to do. Yeah,
it's great. I mean, I think the maturity that comes from that, hearing it and receiving it and then acting on it.
Sure.
The hearing and receiving, I think we all get feedback from time to time, right? That we may be like, nah, they're wrong. They can't be right. But I love the story about baseball, because that's really great that your dad instilled that in you. What a wonderful gift your dad gave you. And that kind of leads me to the next thing, what you're passionate about. So it sounds to me like the way you describe Fintech Nerdcon earlier, you have a similar passion to that, but it sounds like you're a lot better at it than maybe we were at baseball at the time. Although getting a JUCO scholarship is really cool. Yeah. What about Fintech Nerdcon is so special to you?
It's the community aspect. Like, I'm tremendously grateful for the fintech community because they've helped me progress in my career, and it's been, I hate saying this word in a work sense, but it has been the broader community, not a company, the broader community, like a family to me. All of my friends are fintech nerds. They're all within the fintech ecosystem, financial services ecosystem. And it's been like a home to me. And Simon and I and Joy all feel like Fintech Nerdcon is kind of our gift back to the fintech community because they've been so good to us, to create a place where self-proclaimed fintech nerds can nerd out. Like, it was cool. You walk down the expo area, and we don't have booths at Fintech Nerdcon, so it wasn't like that, but everything was all in a room. All the stages were all in a room. And you heard people like Wade Arnold at Move talking about how payments started. You hear other people talking about like the early foundations of crypto and blockchain and like where it came from. You have people like Frank Rotman, who was early guard at Capital One and a complete legend in the space, that hosted a fireside chat with Koki on how he's learned from failures in his life and insecurities in his life. Like, it was incredible, organic, authentic conversations. And really, to your question, Rory, it's Simon, myself, Joy view it as our gift back to fintech for being so good to all of us.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have to be a fintech nerd to go?
Yeah, I think you should be fintech curious and desire to nerd out. We constantly say, like, if you're there to have meetings and social hour, go to Money 2020. But if you want to dive deep into Fintech Insights, we're the home that you need.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I was just wondering, like, if you're a banker, but you're really curious about it, you could go. So you're not going to turn the guy that shows up in a suit away.
We had a whole panel, and I love the suits. I am in banking. I meet with a lot of banks and credit unions constantly, and from the beginning of my career, I love how do we collaborate more with banks and credit unions. We actually had a panel on the main stage is what fintechs can learn from traditional financial institutions. We had Kelly Keogh at SoFi. We had a BMO executive. We had the UK CEO of JP Morgan Chase, and it was one of the best panels. It was awesome. So there was a wide breadth of fintech, financial services, and even the CEO of Opendoor. He gave an awesome keynote on how Opendoor, he used to be the head of payments at Shopify, and what Opendoor, and how he's thinking about shaping the culture of Opendoor. It just like the breadth of perspectives was awesome.
Okay, awesome. Okay, good. Good to know that for our audience, if you're not a fintech nerd, but you're curious, nerd curious, go.
Nerd curious, go to fintechnerdcon.com. Let me know.
So we'd like to do this one segment here that's kind of fun, and it's called fantasy headhunting. So we asked you a question about if you could fantasy headhunt anybody to work with you at Socure, who would it be? And you said Derek Jeter.
Not even close.
Tell me why.
I didn't even have to think about it, Rory. One, I'm a huge Yankee fan. I'm wearing my Yankee shirt today.
I see you got your Yankees shirt on.
My Miami Yankee shirt, Rory.
It is. It looks clear. Like it's a. Okay, so what's the difference between a Miami shirt and a Hawaiian shirt? Because it looks to me like it's that.
It's kind of a Hawaiian shirt, if I'm going to be honest. Okay. But I like Miami because I live in Miami. A huge Yankee fan. You don't see it on my wall, but like this wall over here is all Yankee memorabilia. My son met Aaron Judge, got a ball signed from Aaron Judge, was one of his like favorite days ever. But I grew up in the area where Derek Jeter led the Yankees, and he was captain of the Yankees. The reason why I said it is I do believe for anyone that's thinking about applying for the 20 plus roles we have on the marketing side and the hundreds of roles we're hiring for this year at Socure, I believe it takes a certain mentality to be successful at Socure. Like we're winners. And I was talking to a candidate the other day. They're like, you and Matt Thompson and Johnny and Pablo and these people you're hiring, they're all cut from the same cloth. And I was like, yeah, we freaking win. Like, and we are relentless and we're super competitive. And like, we want to, our goal is to say yes to more good people and decrease friction for good people and stop fraud. Like, we're really, really passionate about what we're doing. And if you think about Derek Jeter, whether you're a Yankee fan or not, and a lot of people want to throw a lot of shade, but he led the Yankees as the captain for the Yankees to one of the best stretches in the Yankees history ever. And he's a winner. Up and down, he wins, and he's hyper competitive. He'd fit in perfectly with culture. So Derek Jeter, if you want to apply, I'll give you my phone number, Rory, and if he reaches out to you, have him give me a call. We'd have a great combo.
I'm sure he's a listener, so maybe he will apply. Well, I'll definitely ask him. I'm a huge Detroit Tigers fan. So, okay. But I was back at I don't know if you remember Kirk Gibson, but
oh yeah, for sure,
a long time ago. But that kind of raw talent is the type of guy I'd love to have. Just like your work ethic is like he was, like work harder than everybody else. He didn't have all the talent in the world, but man, did that guy work hard. And as a result, he was very successful, helped take the team to the World Series in 84. So one more question.
Yes.
So you have kids. I think you have a dog.
2 kids and a dog. You may have heard him barking.
I heard your dog. I have 4 dogs. Okay. So I've been really lucky on this episode because I'm at home, I'm recording from home, and no dog barking. So based on the season and life that you're in now, your recent move to Miami, you've got kids, you've got a dog, you're married. Like, for people to really know you in the season of your life, what would you want them to know?
It goes back to one thing I said, and Colton works his ass off for things that he's really, really passionate about. And anyone that's ever worked adjacent to me realizes that and recognizes that. You'll never be able to look at me and say, man, he didn't give it 110%. Like, that's just not something I do in every aspect of my life. But I thoroughly believe, and I tell anyone that I interview this, like, work-life balance isn't a thing. Work-life integration is for sure a thing. And I've tried to make my kids a part of what I do in the fintech ecosystem as much as possible, to the point where Hudson, my oldest, now says, first, when he gets older, he wants to be an MLB player, but he doesn't want to play for the Red Sox. He really wants to play for the Yankees. Second, he wants to be an actor, but not any actor. He wants to be Will Ferrell. And then he's like, I was like, Hudson, what if those two don't work out, dude? Like, I love it the ambition is great. What if they don't work out? He's like, well, I think I could be a marketer. I think that sounds pretty good. And I was like, at that point, like I felt really good about what I did. So I do believe it's about integrating, but I'm tired of people giving half-ass, like 110% always.
That's how I've always known you. Since the first time I met you at the Fintech House a couple of years ago and had you on the show then, and I'm really grateful to know you, and you put off such a good energy. You're doing such cool stuff. Between Fintech Nerdcon, we didn't get into Fintech Tea today, but I definitely want to talk about that at some point in the future, or come on the show and we can jam it out together. And of course, the exciting stuff you're doing at Socure, all the interesting things going on there. So thank you so much for sharing all that. So for fintech nerds and the nerd curious out there who are listening and want to keep up with you and your work at Socure and Nerdcon and all these other things, like what's the best way to find you, to connect with you, to engage with you? Yeah,
great question. You go ahead and shoot me a note on LinkedIn, Colton Pond on LinkedIn at Socure, and Fintech Nerdcon and advisor at Loan Pro. You can find me at any of those aspects. I will say that I'm really, really bad at, per our comment earlier, keeping up in LinkedIn messages. So if you shoot me an email, colton.pond@socure.com, I do keep my email up to date, and I'd be happy to connect with anyone out there.
Awesome, man. It has been an absolute pleasure. Next time, I mentioned my son's going to be making the move to Miami, so and maybe my wife and I might join him for a period of time. So definitely love to connect with you and your wife and family when we get there.
I love it. Sounds good. Thanks, Rory. Thanks for having me on.
Brother.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure. Thanks. When Colton was getting certified for scuba diving, he had to do 4 qualification dives in a crater in Utah. The water was so murky he couldn't see his hand in front of his face. 3 weeks later, he was in the Maldives, 18 dives in 11 days. That's what a bias toward action can get you. In a world as complicated and arcane as financial services, trying to make progress can feel like swimming through pea soup. Only you never know when you're going to run into a cyber attack or a regulatory minefield. A lot of people would have given up, but Colton found his purpose early on from Brian DeWitt at MX, a source of light who left the world too soon. Financial technology isn't just about efficiency or scale. It's about the 6 out of 10 Americans who can't cover a $400 emergency. It's about the kids coming out of school with no idea how money actually works. If you're going to work on a problem that big and audacious, it certainly helps to be the hardest working person in the room. And it also helps if you can gather a cadre of other like-minded people to attack the problem together. Like Italian glassmakers on an island or fintech nerds at a conference, something really special happens when you integrate your life and work without losing your passion for either. Colton's a great example of what it means to give 110% and have a great time doing it. Thank you for listening to Mighty Finsights. You'll find all of our episodes on our website, CSTMR.com, including more one-on-one interviews with fintech and financial leaders, as well as deep dive episodes on specific topics like branding and marketing. This show is produced and distributed by Customer, a financial marketing agency. All rights reserved. Our production team includes Zach Garver, Becky Dombrowski, Brad Jerger, Romina Gomez, and Belen Encurio.